Shalom. First, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakha HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, from whom I learned this truth. And shalom to the 144,000 elect. And I am Mayakala. And I was meditating and reading on this chapter, 1 Peter chapter 2. And it just kind of occurred to me that you have to be found doing the right thing at the right time, because especially now in these end days, with a lot of these things that are occurring, that we see occurring in the news. I mean, we see neighbors doing each other wrong. We see just wrongs being done in general. I mean, and especially with these ICE being out in the different areas, you can be doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and you just never know how you're going to be approached by these individuals. So you always want to maintain your integrity and find yourself where you're in the position where you're being found doing the right thing, because you just never know what kind of situation you're going to come across, what kind of individuals you're going to come across. So I just wanted to read a little bit of this 1 Peter chapter 2. Actually, I want to drop down, and you can see this heading here before I drop down. It says, as living stones. And in the NLT it says, living stones for Yahweh's, or for the Most High's house. I want to drop down to verse 11. And verse 11 reads, dearly beloved, I beseech you, as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts which war against the soul. All right, we living in this world does not mean that we have to be partakers of the things of this world, where we find ourselves getting caught up in worldly ways, doing worldly things. Verse 12, having your conversation honest among the Gentiles. Gentiles meaning those are Israelites who may not necessarily know that they're Israelites. It says that whereas they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they shall behold, glorify the Most High in the day of visitation. And this is what I wanted to get to. You can see the heading says honor authority. It says submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. So we might have authoritative figures over who, we might not necessarily agree with what they're doing, but we want to be found doing the right thing, so that we are not being caught up in this evil world. Because as it's saying, the Lord has put these people in the positions of authority, and put them over us for those people who do these evil things in the world. All right. I'm going to read verse 14 again. It says, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. So not only are these governors sent by the Most High for those that do evil, but he's also sent to be over those who do well. You know, verse 15 says, "For so it is the will of the Most High that with well doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men." I want to read that in the NLT. It says, "It is the Most High's will that your honorable lives should silence those ignorant people who make foolish accusations against you." So look at that. When you're found doing the right thing and being righteous, when those those evil doers or those evil governors or authoritative figures are found accusing you of something, that you can make them look foolish in the end. All right, because they accuse you without cause, and you being in a position where you're doing the right thing and staying within the Lord's laws that He has given to the Hebrew Israelites, you can make them look foolish who make these false accusations against you. Verse 16, it says, back in the KJV, it says, "As free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of the Most High." So being in these positions where we are, let's say, just in the workplace, you are a servant in the workplace on the plantation, you know, and you want to be found doing the right thing, so that even if you have that asshole supervisor who wants to come up to you and try to accuse you falsely, you maintain and you can be found doing in the right thing, that they even though they want to falsely accuse you, you can be found doing the right thing. I mean, you can always produce what you have done with your time, or produce what you've done at a certain time, so they know that you were in the right place doing the right thing at the right time. I just wanted to read a few more verses of this. It says, verse 17 says, "Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear the Most High, and honor the king." Verse 18 says, "Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear." It says, "Not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward." And let's see what that froward is. That word froward means. And I think we've looked at this before, but I want to bring it out again. And it is G4646. And I'll give you a pronunciation of it.
Strong's G4646. Scolios. Scolios.
Scolios. It says, and it sounds like scoliosis, and scoliosis is a condition where you have a curvature in the spine. And under the biblical usage, you can see that's exactly what it says. It says crooked or curved. Metaphorically meaning perverse or wicked or unfair. Under the Strong's definition, it says warped. It says, example, winding, figuratively, perverse, crooked, forward, or untoward. So that's exactly what forward means, meaning crooked. All right. In verse 20, Salaki, I skipped verse 19. I want to read verse 19 also. And I'm going to read over into the NLT here. It says, "For the Most High is pleased with you when you do what you know is right and patiently endure unfair treatment." Meaning, being found in the right, you may have to suffer a little bit, for the treatment that you may receive. And it's like I was talking about these ICE individuals running around. When you run across them, or come across them, where they come up to you and you be found doing the right thing and being in the right place at the right time. These individuals, because they are froward, because they are crooked, could unfairly or unjustly to accuse you of something. All right. Verse 20 is still in the NLT. It says, of course, you get no credit for being patient if you are beaten for doing wrong. So if you rightfully deserve to be beaten in this case, or being punished just because you were doing wrong, the Lord doesn't look upon that favorably, look upon you favorably, all right, because you were doing wrong. And so you indeed deserve that punishment that you received. Because just like it said in the previous verse, these governors are put over you by the Lord. He's put them in the position of Lord, of governing over you, or lording over you, because, like he said, for those who are doing right, but also for those who are doing wickedly. It says, verse 20 in the NLT, of course you get no credit for being patient or suffering if you are beaten for doing wrong. But if you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, the Most High is pleased with you. And he's pleased with you because you were doing the right thing. All right? And you patiently endure that punishment. All right? And because above all, not being fearful of man, being fearful of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, that's what keeps you doing the right thing. All right? I mean, like I said, you can be doing the right thing and still come across these ICE individuals come across you, and they can do you unjustly treat you unjustly, because that's what they are. They just are crooked individuals. I want to go to Matthew, just speaking on that. Matthew 5 and verse 25. Verse 25 says, agree with thine adversary quickly whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. All right, so just because you're doing the right thing and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, doesn't mean that these individuals are going to act fairly with you. They may indeed, like I said, they may indeed accuse you of something and throw you into prison, where you have to endure that punishment until the time comes where you're proven to be innocent of what they accused you of. But you have to endure that suffering patiently, because the Lord will deliver you if you're doing righteously. And I wanted to go back because I wanted to point out a word in 1 Peter, back in chapter 2. That verse 20 I wanted to look at. It says in the KJV, it says, for what glory is it if when you be buffeted for your faults you should take it patiently, but when you do well and suffer for it, you take it patiently. This is acceptable with the Most High. And I wanted to look at that word buffeted. Buffeted is G2852. And I'll give you a pronunciation of it.
Strong's G 2852. Calafizo. Calafizo.
And it says under the biblical usage to strike with the fist, to give one blow with the fist, to maltreat, treat with violence and contumely. Strong's definition says from a derivative of the base of G2849, it says to rap with the fist. That's what to buffet is. All right. So I wanted to point out that over in John chapter 13, because this is what occurred with Yahushua. I mean, when he was taken to the governor, and he was imprisoned, and he was beaten. This man, Yahushua, was innocent. He had done nothing wrong. He had done only what Yahweh had instructed him to do. This man had no sin. He did nothing wrong. And when he was taken by the guards, he didn't open his mouth. He endured the punishment that he was given. All right? And if this type of thing happens to Yahushua, who is our Lord, you have to know that it can happen to you too. It can happen to us. Because we are servants. We are his servant. So that's why I wanted to go over to John chapter 13 and look at verse 16. It says in the red letter, so this is Yahushua speaking, it says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither is he that is sent greater than he that sent him." NLT says, "I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message." All right? So if this could happen to our Lord, him being innocent, it can certainly happen to us, and to a lot of us, this will happen. All right? And maybe has even happened on a smaller scale before to you in the past, where you were in the right, and you had been falsely accused of something, and you had to just wait until you could be proven to have been falsely accused. You could be proven to be innocent. All right, and that's pleasing to the Lord when you're patient and you're suffering and relying on Him to bring about that release, because that's where it comes from. It comes from the Lord. And I just had a few other verses that I wanted to read, though. Going into Matthew chapter 27. And this heading says Yahushua before Pilate. So this is when he had been taken into Pilate, and he was being questioned at this point. Already having been beaten, being spat upon. Verse 11 says, "And Yahushua stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Yahushua said unto him, Thou sayest." In other words, he's replying, saying, "You said it." Verse 12, "And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. even though he could have done and defended himself and said a number of things, he said nothing. He stood there silent because he knew he was being accused falsely. Verse 13, then Pilate said unto him, hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him to never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. So Pilate was marveled at Yahushua. He knew Yahushua was not guilty of anything. He couldn't find him guilty of anything. He hadn't done anything wrong. But the average person would have been there trying to proclaim their innocence and explain themselves. But Yahushua stood there silently and endured these false accusations because he knew it was Yahweh's plan for him to endure this and for him to go through these things. And that is what made Pilate marvel at him, because he was wondering, Pilate was wondering, how could he not defend himself? How could he not say anything? That's enduring patiently. That's enduring suffering, because it's pleasing to the Lord, just as we just read in 1 Peter chapter 2. I just wanted to bring that out because that's a beautiful thing, and I won't go to it, but it was, you know what? I am going to go to it. I'm going to go to Isaiah. I'm going to start at verse 3. It says, and I'm going to read this in the NLT. It says, he was despised and rejected. And the he that we're talking about is Yahushua, a man of sorrows, acquainted with deepest grief. We turned our backs on him and looked the other way. He was despised, and we did not care. Yet it was our weaknesses he carried. It was our sorrows that weighed him down, and we thought his troubles were a punishment from the Most High, a punishment for his own sins. But he was pierced for our rebellion. Man. Crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. All of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We have left the Most High's paths to follow our own. Yet the Lord Yahweh laid on him the sins of all of us. The sins of us all. Salakia. He was oppressed and treated harshly, yet he never said a word. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep is silent before the shearers, he did not open his mouth. Unjustly condemned, he was led away. No one cared that he died without descendants, that his life was cut short in midstream, but he was struck down for the rebellion of my people. He had done no wrong and had never deceived anyone, but he was buried like a criminal. He was put in a rich man's grave. But it was the Lord Yahweh's good plan to crush him and cause him grief. Yet when his life is made an offering for sin, he will have many descendants. He will enjoy a long life, and the Lord Yahweh's good plan will prosper in his hands. So that's why it was pleasing to the Lord Yahweh, when he was bruising Yahushai, because he knew it was according to his plan, and he knew it was for the good of his people, of his nation, Yasharallah, or Israel. And that's powerful. All right, but I'm going to leave this there. I pray that this has been edifying to the listener. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKadosh. Shalom.